Hi everyone, it's Chenzo. I'm here to talk about everything that happened on week 3 of Big Brother 25. And what a week it was. We left off last week. Hisam's reign as king of the house came to an end. Riley was evicted unanimously. So we get to the Sunday episode. Riley's picture grays. Hisam says, "My HOH was a great success, and America would agree." I don't think America, the country, or the house guest would agree that this was any kind of success. Cameron is targeting Hisam. Suri loves that. Cameron is upset about his daughter, Riley, being evicted. Matt is also upset about Riley. She was giving him good information, and she was a really great communicator with him. He breaks down and cries. They flash back to him confessing his crush on her. Matt is another person who wants revenge on Hisam. Hisam is the HOH host. He's dressed as a game show host with a funny wig. They're in the Humiliverse, so there's lots of noses and boogies. It's a golfing challenge, which I love because anyone could win this, but this should have been live. For me, it's more fun to be watching it in live time and seeing everyone do how they do. When this kind of challenge is pre-taped, it's very boring because it's a lot of, so I got a 46, I'm hoping that my competitor doesn't get a 47. We get it. The bottom two will be have-nots. Izzy calls Hisam a dictator, and they edit Hisam as a red devil, complete with a slow motion track of his own laughter. My icon, Felicia, gets a 53, one of the best scores. She's laughing, she's dancing. I wrote in my notes, what's the point of Blue wearing her curlers all day if she's going to also wear them in the diary room? Girl, that's the time to let those bangs out, purr. And Felicia wins the HOH. Who knew that this would begin another reign of terror in the BB25 house? Red, America, and Matt are have-nots. Felicia needs to get slimed with boogers for 24 hours, and she has to pick someone to do it with her. The first time she chooses Bowie, and they get slimed, which is funny. They'll eventually have a montage of Felicia and various other house guests getting slimed. After the challenge, Felicia celebrates by shaking her booty and saying her catchphrase, "Oh my god!" Blue cries that she lost the HOH. I didn't know that she cared like that. Hisam knows that he's safe, and that feels amazing. The ladies start talking about backdooring Hisam. Not shown on the show was Felicia's HOH basket, otherwise known as HOA. Mr. B got her oils, her seasoning pepper, her kettle chips. I didn't see Tivana tea, but hey, there's a budget. Izzy is production's go-to for objectifying comments about Matt's body, so Hisam goes to Felicia's HOA room to high-five her and tell her his demands. Felicia does a great job of smiling and nodding. Jared and Blue are flirting, which they've been doing all season, and it's so problematic on the feeds. Felicia tells Jag that she needs him to be a pawn. Matt opens up to Suri and Izzy about what his life is like being deaf, and it's a really lovely segment. Felicia lets Cam in on the plan. She cuddles him on the couch. There are lots of clips of Hisam flexing and enjoying his own reflection in the mirror while the other housemates plan his demise. So here we have the show painting him out to be very full of himself. We get to the nomination ceremony. Fly Guy Corey is picked to get slimed for the last time with Felicia, and now the punishment is over, but Felicia has to do her nominations covered in slime, wearing her goggles. She nominates Jag and Cam, no surprise to anybody. We come into Wednesday's episode, and this episode for me was very boring. It was a lot of one-on-one conversations with Hisam. So I'm going to mention Hisam sits down with this person. Hisam sits down with that person. We start the episode off with Felicia walking away from the ceremony with her goggles on. She calls Hisam a dictator in the diary room. Hisam is excited to relax. He says, "It feels great that my HOH didn't leave people wanting to target me." Felicia flashbacks to telling everyone except Red that Hisam is getting backdoored. Blue pretends to cry to Hisam, and in the diary room, she says he's going to need a miracle to survive this week. Per America and Blue give Corey a makeover into Blue's clothes, which was funny on feeds, and Mimi says that she stands. Felicia and Izzy tell Hisam that he was too much and needs to chill. He agrees. Mimi is annoyed by everyone's talking, and then they have Mimi talking to herself in the storage room, but this was from last week, and this was her talking about a completely different situation. Out of context, it's not as powerful. Cameron goes to Red because they have a strange relationship and tells him about the Hisam plan. We get a quick clip of Felicia staring at a piece of cantaloupe on a fork. So Red goes to Felicia because he should know about this if the Professor's Alliance is real, and Felicia Giesling quickly pivots and plays it off like it's no big deal, but Red can still tell that he's left out. So then we get Red thinking that Cam will fill Hisam's spot in the Alliance. So he tells Cam all about the professor's name and all. Cameron aspires to be a professor. We get one of the funnier scenes in a while where Blue and Jared are flirting in the hammock, and then we get a scary cut to Suri lurking in the shadows. And y'all, I had about 3 glasses of wine watching this episode, and when Suri came on with the scary music, I thought it was a hallucination. In the veto draw, Izzy, Red, and Corey are picked to play in the veto. When the feeds came back from this, it was very clear that Hisam was doomed. In the Humiliverse veto competition, they have to crawl through some green slime to get an egg and then bring their egg back to the hatchery, and they're dressed like chickens. Anytime there's goop and feathers, it reminds me of that episode of Degrassi, Bad Memories, Bad Memories. I feel like the slime should have been a little bit stickier, but you all know I'm very greedy, I always want more. Hisam would have crushed this challenge. Felicia gets stuck in the slime, but nowhere near BB12 Kathy. But she finally gets an egg and it's triumphant. Then, all slimed up, she rolls around in the hay. Bowie is an all-time great challenge host here. Her narration of the challenge really made me feel like she could host an actual game show. Jag wins the POV and he also has to wear a costume, so now he's Cockle-Doodle-Zoom, the chicken, which was fun. Hisam wants Felicia to renom Matt. Not shown in the episode was hours of panic and scrambling before the veto meeting, where Felicia goes downstairs before the veto ceremony and confronts Jag, but I feel like Felicia threatening Jag and cursing at him should have been in the episode. So in the end, Jag uses the POV on himself. Felicia savagely blindsides Hisam using his own quote, and Hisam is rightfully incensed by this nomination. So finally we get to the Thursday episode. Julie is wearing a gorgeous, frilly, flowery dress. Julie nails it this episode. She makes it through all of her lines perfectly. Hisam feels hurt from Felicia's speech, but agrees that he's a king. He confronts Felicia and Izzy. Neither of them are affected by his communication. Izzy reveals to him that America was the information leak. Not shown on the show was Hisam confronting America and America saying that he's gaslighting her and correcting him repeatedly, which was really good TV on the feeds, and that was missing from this boring episode. Another sit-down conversation with Felicia and Hisam, and then another conversation with Felicia and Izzy where he apologizes to them, and then another conversation with Suri. But Hisam's campaign is very convincing. I really do feel like he would have stayed loyal to them even though they tried to backdoor him. Then Suri, Izzy, and Felicia, the trio of chaos, meet to discuss flipping as they do. The editing of the show really makes you feel like it's a big mistake for them to send Hisam home. And this is one of the rare occasions where, watching the episode, I wasn't 100% sure who was going to get voted out. This group could easily change up what they're doing last minute while the feeds are down before the episode. So we get to a live eviction episode. Felicia is holding a wide-brimmed white hat, but not wearing it. I wish she was wearing it. Also, bring back Julie interviewing the HOH every week. Even just for this week, can we get an interview with Felicia and Julie? We get to the live eviction. Cam's speech is boring. Hisam begs for mercy, but then everyone votes out Hisam. And Hisam is evicted. This interview is unhinged and kind of humorous. Hisam is Hisaming and laughing. He's baby talking Julie. He's intonating. He gives us some rights and the fact of the matter is, just for old time's sake. And Julie gets another great reaction from revealing Suri and Jared's secret to Hisam. This is one of Hisam's best moments. His reactions are very funny. So we have to say goodbye to Hisam, who was 8th in my initial cast ranking and has consistently fallen since then. His initial plan before going into the house was to split the house on purpose. The split house ended up being the worst thing that ever happened to him, and it wasn't even his purposeful doing. He was very good at competitions, a huge threat in the game, with no plan of hiding how good he was until the plan to backdoor him was already in place. Overall, we didn't get to know him too much. I wish we could have seen some more of his burlesque. Maybe he could have put on some kind of performance in the house. But overall in the feeds, he was pretty much just working out all the time. And I feel like when I think back, I'll just think of him as a very prideful person. He does seem to think that he is better than everyone else. And I get it, in the real world, he has a lot of things going for him. But in the house, he pretty much talked to everyone else like they were beneath him with condescending language such as the fact of the matter is and right. Overall, I still like him, mostly because his casting reminded me a lot of old school Big Brother casts. But overall, I feel like it was his time. And out of everyone on this cast, I feel like he didn't get the memo about the diary rooms coming across as fluid or organic. And he's always getting a lot of diary rooms and they're always very robotic. So goodbye, Hisam. Thanks for keeping all my faves safe in your HOH. So let's get into the rankings. I do these rankings based on where things stand in the game at the end of the Thursday night episode. So if an HOH is crowned during that episode, I'll go based off that. But given that we left off this episode and everybody is still right now in the pressure cooker, at number 13 out of 13, I have Cameron, who has been at the end of my list for a while. I feel like Cameron is doing no favors to his own game. They all still see him as a target. The majority of the people have him on their roster of people that they will nominate. And I see him either being nominated multiple times in the next few weeks or just being nominated once and going home. Even if he wins the HOH this week, people are going to be even more incentivized to get him out. So I've never felt good about it. I don't think I'm going to feel good about it. On to number 12, I have Red, who last week was 9th and has only been dropping. Now he's dropped even further. I said last week his relationship with Cameron is tanking his game. This week, it feels like he's publicly going all in even more on Cameron. And I also said previously that Red would need to jump sides and work with the other alliance, but now the other alliance doesn't even really exist. So Red is on the bottom of a fake alliance with nowhere to go to. So he's in a bad spot. I think he'd be lucky if he made it to jury. At number 11, I have Bowie, who was 10th last week, so another drop here. At some point, Bowie was in a great place in the game, even though she wasn't playing. This week, it feels like she started to play, or everyone else thinks that she started to play. But it's one of those cases where a floater starts playing the game, and it's the worst thing that they could ever do. Because for some reason, Felicia hates her. Suri and Izzy don't trust her. I still don't think anyone's going to target her, but they're really starting to dislike her. But props to her this week for being a little bit more checked in than usual in the game. At number 10, I have Jag, who last week was 8th. The big reason why Jag is so low is he doesn't have the one-on-one relationships that he needs to. And I don't think he has the riz that I really thought he had coming into the game. I thought he was going to be a really great player, but he seems to just be close to who he's close to, even though they're on the complete outskirts. The way this house is broken down, it feels like the closer you are to Suri, the closer you are to making it to the end. And Jag just doesn't have a one-on-one relationship with Suri to the point where I would put him anywhere near the top of this list. In order for him to get higher, I think he would have to put in the work, but there are already people who are doing that work that were on the outside and trying to get in. Which brings me to my number 9, who's Matt, who was much lower on the list. Last week he was 11th, and he has put in the work this week to get close and build that one-on-one relationship with Suri and Izzy and Felicia, to the point where they do see value in him and keeping him, and they really like him. Is it to the degree that I can see him in the end game? No, but it's a better start. But if he keeps it up, maybe he can get far enough in the game where he can win some competitions and really make an endgame stretch. So getting into my top 8, as I was making this list, I really thought of these 8 people as the Fields family crime syndicate, because everyone from this point forward is part of the core structure of the house, and then everyone else is kind of just, they're on the fringe. Blue would be on the fringe if it weren't for her personal romantic relationship with Jared, Suri's son. That showmance has really brought her into this crime family. So it's tough because I can't really see Blue winning the game, but Suri has all these close personal allies that she's bringing along, and I can see Suri giving Jared a +1. Why can't Jared have one person that he can get far in the game with? So because overall her position in the house has gotten better, I moved her from number 12 to number 8 this week. At number 7, I have Izzy, who was 7th last week for me. If I'm thinking about this cast as a crime movie, Izzy is Suri's bodyguard / driver. Effectively, Izzy is Suri's henchman. In the video game about the Fields crime family, Izzy is the NPC character that follows you around and says, "All right, boss." But seriously, based on the fact that she knows that if she goes to the end with the people she wants to go to the end with, she will lose, and is still dead set on going to the end with them, I can't put her anywhere above 7th right now. She would have to randomly wake up one day and decide that she wants to turn on Suri, which could happen. And I think going to the end with Corey and America would be a good group for that to happen for her, but she would still lose to them. At number 6, I put America, who last week was 2nd. Big drop this week because have you ever almost gotten hit by a car and then you realize, oh my God, I almost died? America was almost run over by the Fields family bus this week. She was one hair away from getting backdoored by Felicia, and she still doesn't even know. And she would have been lower on my list if her and Corey didn't lock in a last-minute alliance with the Fields family. So for that reason, I have her at number 6. She really needs to form one-on-one bonds with people in that alliance to make them trust her more. If she can lock in that trust, she can get far enough in the game to really make some damage happen, but I'm really concerned for her the next few weeks. I do think that she or Corey have a strong chance of winning the twist that America's voting for to make them immune from eviction. I think they might need to use that. At number 5, I have Jared, who was 6th last week. I feel like Jared doesn't do himself any favors with his behavior in the house. Him being so close with Blue is just not a good look. He's way too focused on her than he is on the game. These things long term are going to make it hard for him to win a jury vote, especially because he's not really making moves. Suri is making the moves. It's hard for me to see the vision of him winning Big Brother. At number 4, I have Felicia, who was 5th last week. The pros for Felicia are that she's so loved in the house. She can say really anything and none of them ever get offended. And last week I was worried about her ability to win competitions, but she won a competition even though it was kind of a crapshoot. She has at least one win under her belt. You can't say she didn't win anything. One crack that's starting to show in Felicia's armor is she did have a bit of HOH-itis this week, so I'm really happy to see her back in her civilian role. Another HOH anytime soon would be very bad for her, although now that she's gotten used to it, maybe she'll just continue to walk around the house and boss people around and curse at them and call them out in rooms. We'll see, but if Felicia can go back to behaving like old Felicia in the first 2 weeks, I feel like she'll maintain her place here. But if she continues to run amok in the house, I feel like people might get tired of it. At number 3, I have Mimi, who was number 1 last week. I thought she was in a really good place in the game, but now that there are no longer two sides, there's no longer a middle. You're either on Suri's side or you're not. And there are times when Suri doesn't really want her on her side. This week, she did a good job of bringing a lot of information to Suri. She overall comes across like the cousin Greg of this crime family. Like, she's always around. We don't really know how she's around, and she could end up inheriting the whole family fortune if she could just stick around long enough. But this week, she really needs to start playing the game and talking to different people instead of just talking to herself in the storage room. In second place this week, I have Corey, who was 4th. And I feel like if I was basing it on this week's gameplay alone, Corey would be number one for me. He's gone from being on the block in the beginning to being ingrained into the Fields family syndicate. I am hoping that the For Real alliance is real. Even though I feel like he's playing the best game in the house on paper, he's doing everything he can to keep America in the house because America is a very important piece for him in the game. She's someone that will win competitions and will keep him safe. And he's aware that if they're nominated together, she will go home. So overall, he's playing the best game on paper in the house. His biggest problem is if he wants to inherit the family fortune, he's got to go through Cirie to get it. So as long as Cirie is in the game, Corey cannot be number one because he knows that his way to win the game is through Cirie, not around her. And if he wants to get Cirie out, he has to get Jared to help her to do it. My instinct tells me there's a better chance of him going to Jared saying, I want to get Cirie out, and Jared going straight to Cirie and telling her this and that being his undoing, more than him going to Jared saying, I want to get Cirie out, and Jared deciding it's a good idea to vote out his own mother, even though that would be in his best interest probably. And number one, of course, I have Cirie, who is the matriarch of the Fields crime family. Last week, I had her in third because she was playing a very chaotic game. This week, she continued to play the chaotic game, but it's very clear and apparent to me that it's working for her, and all the things that her and Izzy and Felicia do are just fine because there's no opposition to the things that they're doing. Nobody is going to stand up to them. So Cirie is running circles around the rest of the house, and it feels like she's going to continue to run circles around the rest of the house. So that's all I have for you this week. As I'm recording this video, the house guests are playing in the pressure cooker competition, which is so exciting. Also, America's currently voting to give one house guest the chance to cancel an eviction. So stay tuned for that. I have no idea who's going to win that. I'm guessing either Corey, America, or Cirie. I'll be back next week to do another review and ranking. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss it. Until then, have a nice weekend. Bye!